Welcome to the Vibrantly You podcast. We're your hosts, Megan Martineau
and Caitlin Cipriano. In this podcast, we talk about fitness and nutrition on your motherhood journey. Whether you are trying to conceive, pregnant, postpartum, or beyond, you are welcome here.
Nothing is off limits, and our goal is to support you in this important season of life so that you can feel vibrantly you. As a reminder, this information is not medical advice. Please see the show notes for more details. Welcome back to the Vibrantly You podcast. Today I'm doing a solo episode and we are going to be talking about why labor is like a marathon. Labor and birth are the most physically and mentally demanding events your body will ever experience. So, why aren't we preparing for it the same way that we would train for something like a marathon? This is a question I ask quite often. And so today I'm hoping to change your mind a little bit when you are thinking about preparing for labor and birth. We're going to be diving exactly into how to train for labor and birth in a way that helps you feel strong, prepared, and confident without hopefully feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you need to do it perfectly, because every little bit counts. Now, let's be real. You would not show up to run a marathon, which is 26.2 miles, without training for it. I assume. I would not do this. And usually for a marathon, you are training for this months and months in advance, right? If you think about it, like you're building up your cardiovascular system, you're increasing your runs like by a couple of miles each time. Every couple of weeks, you're increasing your mileage, whatever training plan you're following. You are probably lifting weights in the gym because you need strength to be a runner. You can't just be running. You're also probably fueling nutritionally, especially leading up to your marathon. You're carb loading, probably. You're eating a lot of protein. And you're also doing mental prep because running for that long and the repetition, that can be really hard mentally to keep going. So a lot of people are also doing some mental prep to keep you focused, especially when it gets hard and you want to give up. Now, if we switch gears and think about labor and birth, they are just as physically demanding. And many moms, especially first-time moms, are, not to scare you, but are in labor for sometimes up to 72 hours. That is days. And so I know that movies and shows make it look like your water breaks, you're running off to the hospital, you're trying to not accidentally have a baby in the car, and it's like this big whole dramatic thing. But that's not typically what's happening for a lot of people. Labor and birth is a process, and it is very physically and mentally demanding on the body. So the best thing that you can do is to prepare for it. And there are 3 ways that we can do this. We want to work on building strength. So this is going to be strength training, building your muscles, building endurance. So thinking about that cardiovascular system, and increasing mobility. So let's jump into strength. I like to think about 3 categories of strength that we want to focus on in pregnancy. So that is going to be lower body strength. So think squats, lunges, deadlifts, glute bridges, hip thrusts, anything where we can work on building those big muscles in our lower body, hamstrings, glutes, quads, inner thighs. Okay. We want lower body strength to give us options when it comes to labor. Squats are a fantastic way to open the top of the pelvis. This is the first hurdle for baby to get through, is get into the top of the pelvis. Squats are excellent for this, and I'll be talking more about the levels of the pelvis a little bit later. But when you're thinking ahead to positions that people typically labor in, there's squats, deep squats, lunges can be helpful for people, being in all fours. Sometimes you need to be walking the hallways. So we want that lower body strength. Another one is upper body strength. This is something that a lot of people overlook, but you often need shoulder strength for labor. A lot of people like to labor on all fours. That is really comfortable, and your shoulders can fatigue quickly. So you want to have strong shoulders. You also want to practice being in that all fours position often so your body can feel what that is like and build the strength for it. And then we do also want to think about core strength. So having a strong core can help aid in pushing because Your uterus and the contractions are what is helping to push the baby down. And so, if your core is strong too, this can be helpful. So, strength is really important when we're thinking about preparing for labor and birth. Now, let's move on to endurance. Endurance is really important for labor and birth too, because let's think back to what I said before. A lot of people are in labor for days. So, this means days of going through contractions. This can be incredibly tiring. And so, you want your body to have some endurance training and build up that stamina. One way that I love to do this with my prenatal clients is through LIIT, labor intensity interval training. Kind of sounds like HIIT, right? So we are doing interval training. So basically, what we're trying to do is help mimic the intensity of contractions. So, say like 60 seconds of contractions, followed by a brief rest period, then jumping into it again. Contractions, rest period, jumping into it again, contractions, rest period. We obviously cannot practice contractions, right? I mean, you might be having Braxton Hicks, but we can't really practice the intensity of contractions, but we can have an intense exercise where we're getting our heart rate up, our muscles are burning. Mentally, we're like, oh my God, make this end. I hate this. And then you jump into recovery where you're breathing, bringing down your heart rate, trying to relax your body, turn inward, just to then jump back into it again, right? So we're really trying to mimic how quickly you're moving back and forth between contractions and rest in the workout. This builds cardiovascular endurance, of course, but it also is building muscle endurance. So that way, your lower body muscles, when we think back to that, are not fatiguing quickly. So that way, if you are, say, you're in the hospital and being in a squat position just feels right. You'll find when you're in labor, like there's just some positions that you're just like, this is the position I'm in. This is what feels okay. So say that position for you is a squat. But oh no, 40 seconds into that squat, you're like, my legs can't hold me anymore. Uh-oh, we don't want that, right? So we're going to be training in pregnancy so that your muscles do not fatigue quickly. It's going to give you more options in labor. LIIT is also a great way to help with the mental prep. So, again, if you're in like 60 seconds of, say, like a goblet squat to an overhead press, I don't know, just something where you're like getting that heart rate up, some sort of combination exercise, and you're like, wow, my quads are burning. I hate this. Wow, my shoulders are burning. Oh my God, how much time is left on the clock? When is this going to end? This sucks. My lungs are burning. Like, rather than thinking about all of the ways that your body hurts and you don't like it and you're counting down until it's over, you're going to try to shift your thinking. So you're going to be like, wow, this is uncomfortable, but my body is doing what it is supposed to do. Or like, I can do anything for a minute. I am strong. My body is capable. How lucky am I that my body can do this? Every contraction is bringing me closer to my baby. Like, start repeating mantras that you plan to use in birth, if that's something that you want to do. Start repeating those to yourself during your LIIT, because then we're also training the mind, right? Just like how when we meditate, if you're someone who meditates, you are practicing meditation on a regular basis. So that way, when you're in like a heated moment, a stressful moment, an anxiety riddled moment, your brain can rely on all that practice that you've done in meditation to be like, wait, we know what to do. We know how to calm down, right? So we want to think about doing that same thing in our workouts and with LIIT trainings, trying to train our mind during pregnancy. I can do this. My body was built for this. I am strong enough for this. I can do this. The more you tell yourself that, the more you're going to believe it, and it is going to help you in labor. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is mobility. So, muscle tension when you're in labor, when you're going through contractions, is not productive. We want to be able to fully relax the body, release tension. That's why you hear doulas or labor and delivery nurses talk about that low moaning sounds, trying to help that body relax. So, if you are already at a place where you have a lot of muscle tension, even just like resting, that's not helpful. So we want to try to address that during pregnancy, find those like tight or sticky places and work on trying to release those and teaching your body it's okay to relax and release. Having more mobility means your range of motion is greater. So, this is also going to allow you access to a wider range of positions during labor and birth to help open the pelvis. So, I kind of mentioned this before, but there are three levels to your pelvis. We have the pelvic inlet, the mid pelvis, and the pelvic outlet. And baby needs to move through all three levels of the pelvis to be born. There are different exercises that or movements, whatever you want to call them, to help make more space in each three of these levels. There is not one singular exercise that opens the pelvis. There are different ones for each level. So practicing these a lot during pregnancy is going to make it easier for you and more intuitive for you to access these when you're in labor, which is in turn going to work with your baby to help them move down through the pelvis and the birth canal. And then, of course, we want to be thinking about pelvic floor relaxation because, like I mentioned earlier, your pelvic floor doesn't push the baby out, your uterus does. Your pelvic floor's job is to relax and lengthen the muscles to allow baby to pass through. So, we want to be practicing pelvic floor relaxation, especially in the third trimester. This is going to also help to reduce risk of severe tearing if you are able to connect those muscles and teach them how to relax. So, let's recap. I know this is a lot of information, but the three things we want to focus on in pregnancy to help prepare for the demands of labor and birth are strength, endurance, and mobility. I want you to remember that labor and birth is physically and emotionally and mentally intense. It requires a lot of you. And so the better that you prepare in pregnancy, likely the better you're going to feel, the more confident you're going to feel when it comes to labor and birth. Now, I do just want to note here that we cannot control how labor will go. Labor is unpredictable. You are not the only variable, right, in labor. Like you also are working with another person, which is your baby. So we're not controlling what baby's doing, right? We can only control what you are doing. So we don't know how labor is going to go. But that being said, the smarter that you prepare for this, the more intentional that you are, is only going to have positive benefits. And even if labor doesn't go the way that you want, say you end up in a C-section, training in this way during pregnancy is going to help you with your postpartum recovery. And I have clients who can attest to this. I have had a few clients who have ended up having C-section deliveries, and they always say, thank God we did everything we did during pregnancy because I can't imagine what my recovery would have been like otherwise. So, and it's also just helped them feel really empowered in the experience, just knowing that they did everything that they could. And again, ultimately, labor is unpredictable and we can't control it, but they always feel really good about how they prepared and how they felt in the moment. It felt more empowering than out of control, if that makes sense. So, all of these things, this is exactly what I do with my clients when I work with them in pregnancy. If you're interested in learning more about that and what it could look like for you and I to work together in your pregnancy, I will drop a link below in the show notes to check out my one-on-one Vibrantly You coaching. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend, leave us a review, and I will talk to you again next week.